Just short of 1,000 kilometres west of mainland Ecuador lays the islands of the Galapagos, the focus of this part of the adventure. Wilms and I leave Quito on an Avianca flight with views of snow-capped mountain peaks emerging above the clouds. The flight carries on over the Pacific Ocean, and soon enough the main island of Santa Cruz comes into view. The airport is just to the north, on the small island of Plethora. This transport will take folk out to the docks. Wilms has organised a 5-day boat trip to explore the wonders of these remote islands. It's a busy spot. Zodiacs ferrying passengers out to their respective boats, and soon enough, Wilms and I are aboard with other members of the group. The illustrious Nemo 2 awaits its next instalment of passengers. Once aboard and orientated, the ship sets sail. The Nemo 2 is a 21-metre catamaran with motor and sails, a spacious vessel well suited to groups of up to 14 plus crew. In addition to the ample deck, the bow's hammock-like nets suspend sleepy passengers above the water below. Out back and out of the sun is the dining area. The cabins are situated in the hull on both sides. This is our habitation aboard the Nemo 2. Wilms was hoping that I'd show you this before I messed it all up, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Departing Plethora, it's just a short cruise to Bacas Beach on the north shore of Santa Cruz. Stretches of sand among hard, black volcanic rock is our introduction to the islands of the Galapagos. The crew deliver us to shore in the Zodiac for what's called a wet landing. The fellow in the middle is Gabriel, our knowledgeable guide and leader. Just offshore, boobies and pelicans dive bomb schools of small fish. Turtles are keeping a wary eye on the action as they swim by. In fact, this is a popular beach for them to nest. A common sight near the water's edge are brightly colored Sally Lightfoot crabs. They cling stubbornly to the rocks whilst being pummeled by the surf.
The beach is also the introduction to snorkeling in the Galapagos. Small and timid sharks sneak about in the silt-laden shallows. Typical reef denizens are damselfish and wrasse, such as the blue-chinned parrot, an attractive creature armed with a tough beak for cracking coral polyps. This specimen is a juvenile streamer, or Mexican hogfish. Note the significant difference to the adult male version. Also a type of wrasse, it is a consumer of crustaceans and molluscs, though this school of baitfish isn't letting their guard down. Through the gloom, Summer spots a large turtle trying to swim by unnoticed. That afternoon, the Nemo 2 set sail again, circumnavigating the island of Santa Cruz to the Plazas. Having arrived, the crew set anchor in a protected channel between the two islands, not too far from where tomorrow's expedition will be conducted. Gabriel then gives us a briefing on what to expect the following day before unleashing the minions upon a magnificent feast.
After a very pleasant morning cruise, the group assembles into the Zodiacs, ready for an onshore excursion. Few animals can frolic as well as sea lions, true masters in the art of enjoying themselves. This is what's called a dry landing, utilizing a makeshift dock of concrete and stone. Straight off the docks, we're surrounded by island inhabitants, swallow-tailed gulls, tiny lava lizards, and marine iguanas. The environment we step into is quite hostile, a blazing sun over black lava rock, cacti, and mats of succulents. Down a stony trail, Gabriel informs us about the black iguanas that like to dine on algae growing on rocks beneath the surface of the water. Their black coloration enables them to warm up faster after a chilly swim.
Among the formidable spines of the gargantuan prickly pears, a yellow warbler does some warbling, and a young Darwin finch begs for food. These tree-sized cactus are currently in bloom, and this attracts yet another ambiguous island occupant. The chunky and colourful land iguana dwarfs the little lava lizard alongside it, as he awaits the inevitable gift from the gods above, a tasty cactus flower. A frenzy of activity erupts when they fall, as everybody rushes in to claim the booty.
For the lack of scavengers on this island, this fellow's just laid down on a rock and died, and over time he's still there, relatively in one piece.
A gull that feeds exclusively at night. These swallow-tailed gulls don't seem to put much effort into their nesting situation. Sweating it out amongst the hard, hot rock, it seems the nests are not chosen, but simply where the egg fell out. Walking along the cliffs provides views back onto the main island of Santa Cruz and down into the clear waters of the Pacific Ocean.
Next, we take a southbound course to the island of Santa Fe. Anchored out from shore, the relative shelter of the Nemo II attracts schools of razor surgeons, sergeant majors, and brown chromis. Stingrays also move in and hunker down on the sandy floor. Not to mention a couple of yummy-looking yellow snapper. Now we're on Santa Fe Island, and this is very cool. We're in a sea lion nursery, and they don't care that we're here at all. Following the trail off the beach requires stepping around locals who are loafing in the limited shade offered by small shrubs. Beneath these scrubby brushes, Galapagos doves go about their busy schedule, looking for morsels and grooming meticulously. While up in the cactus, Santa Fe's very own species of mockingbird surveys the goings-on below. Lumbering along, a robust land iguana makes an appearance. One of two species of land iguana found throughout the archipelago. This guy lives solely on Santa Fe. Its pale complexion is very different to its more colorful cousins found elsewhere. Of the 7 species of lava lizards, this one's the most common. It's the same type we encountered back on South Plazas.
A busy day concludes with a return to the boat. Now with some on-the-ground experience, Gabriel brings to light the origins of the Galapagos. These islands are volcanic in origin, an ongoing process from around 5 million years ago to present. The surface of the Earth is but a thin crust protecting life above from the molten inferno within. Broken into sections and driven by powerful convection currents, these plates diverge, converge, and grind alongside one another. Most of the world's volcanic activity occurs along these active areas. Although the Galapagos is situated close to the confluence of 3 tectonic plates, they are not believed to be the cause of the island's rise from the ocean floor. Hotspots or molten plumes billow up from the deep, weakening the Earth's crust, causing it to bulge and eventually erupt like a boil. Underwater volcanoes begin their ascension until eventually appearing above the ocean's surface. While the Nazca Plate above is pushed southeast, along with the newly formed islands, the hotspot below remains stationary and continues to work havoc on the ground above, creating yet more volcanoes and thusly more islands. Once the islands have left the location of the hotspot, they are no longer active, and erosion sets to work, cutting down the high elevations. Low-lying Espanola is one of the oldest in the chain, contrasting with volcanically active islands to the west, like Fernandina.
Once the sterile rocky islands had cooled, they were then open to habitation. Seabirds could fly to the islands and aquatic creatures could swim, but the arrival of others would be as castaways. Washed out to sea by rivers and drifting on ocean currents, tortoises, iguanas, and lizards were all capable of surviving longer, without fresh water, and more likely to survive the dangerous crossing. Smaller birds blown out to sea by strong winds had a second chance when reaching the sanctuary of land. Seeds of plants likewise arrived by air and sea, including in the bellies of birds. The difference in island topography dictated what plants could grow and created different challenges to the castaways on the individual islands. It required them to adopt island-specific tool sets, and that, in turn, over generations, altered these creatures slightly in their form, enabling them to better adapt to a particular environment, a perfect showcase for the theory of natural selection. Looking venerable even at the tender age of 26, naturalist Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos aboard the Beagle in 1835. Upon arrival, he noticed the different traits developed by different species on different islands. Tortoises that browsed for leaves possessed longer necks than those on grassier islands where they would graze. Seed-cracking Darwin finches had thicker beaks than the narrower ones, better able to capture insects. So was the evidence Darwin needed to have the courage to publish his book on the origin of species, detailing his theory of evolution. The Nemo 2 set sail again through the night to the island of San Cristobal. Kicker Rock towers above the water like a medieval fortress. This morning's objective is a deep-water snorkel alongside those sheer cliffs. As our captain circumnavigates this colossus, one can see it's sliced in two by a chasm. This is where we'll be swimming through. There's a strong current to work against swimming through this channel. Down in the deep, a Galapagos shark makes an appearance. It's a close relative of the infamous great white.
The beach on San Cristobal gives great views back to Kicker Rock and that shark-infested chasm. On the jagged stones, Sally Lightfoot crabs continue to be battered by the surf, and a little dotterel tries to decide if it's actually very hungry after all. Pelicans chill out by the beach, enduring the rough life they've been given, and other small obscure water birds scurry about on their own busy schedules. Farther down, a big beefy marine iguana contemplates taking a dip, though soon he is robbed of a choice. A small crab watches on in amusement while below, an army of brightly coloured crustaceans march in unison for a purpose known only to crabs. Eventually our friend takes the plunge, enjoying a refreshing swim in a protected cove. As for us, we must return to the Nemo 2 and prepare for the next mission. At the western end of San Cristobal is Lobos Island. Squadrons of frigate birds soar in the skies above, while rough seas batter the coast, proving no obstacle to the sea lions doing their frolicking thing in the surf. Though not everybody is feeling so active, and bodies need be stepped over as we make our way along the docks. The islands are an attractive rookery for both frigate birds and the blue-footed booby, as the terrain is a little rough for terrestrial creatures, requiring some agility and rock-hopping skills. It is amongst these tangled shrubs that love is transformed into ugly, fluffy little monsters. Yet the fruits of passion don't always come easy, even in the bird world, and the ladies do need be wooed, with some fancy dance moves and seductive strutting. Though forcing the damsel to pay attention by pecking her in the face just isn't appropriate no matter what the species. The frigate bird is the true pirate of the sea, seen here relentlessly harassing a gull to regurgitate its meal for the frigate bird's own dining pleasure.
At the trail's end, Gabriel awaits the Zodiac. The dock has become quite crowded again with sun worshippers enjoying the afternoon siesta. Though there are still a few romping about in the protected waters on this side of the island, inspiring us to join them. Hawkfish watch suspiciously as odd, pasty invaders from the world of air plunge into their domain. A king angelfish sends out word that this is his patch. We upset a cranky yellow-tailed damsel and spook a Creole fish from hiding. Not intrigued at all by us, a big, chunky stingray vacuums up the sand, hoping for a tasty snack. Not to be confused with their close cousins, the yellow-tailed surgeonfish, these are razor surgeonfish. The name surgeon is in reference to the sharp spines or scalpels at the base of their tail. They are on housekeeping duties, cleaning algae from the rocks. Soon enough, our activities attract the interest of the locals, and we're promptly joined with the newcomers showing off their far superior swimming skills. A sea lion crashes into the water, sending fish swimming for their lives. This fellow managed to escape for now. It can be a bit of a rough neighborhood on occasion.
Leaving San Cristobal, the Nemo 2 sets its course to the final destination, Espanola. This island is another popular place for pinnipeds, skulking herons and marine iguanas, but not the standard dusky shade, instead brightly coloured specimens. An old-timer sits atop a lofty perch. He sees it's all fun and games down in the surf, but not so up on the rocks. A scuffle erupts between some young chaps over some prime real estate. There doesn't seem to be any shortage of good spots, so there must be something really special about this particular rock. From the old fella's perspective, things are getting a trifle undignified. And even the doves are fighting. All this is far too exhausting for an old fella. Who needs a nap? A quick glance over to Lover's Lane and he sees everybody's getting on just fine. Wonderful.
Espanola has its own species of mockingbird. Here, a specimen begs for food. Endemic Galapagos flycatchers patrol the trail edge for insects disturbed by those passing by. More variants of lava lizards, the largest of 7 species, bask on the hot stones, needing to be very careful in case they become the focus of this hungry raptor. On the opposite side of the island, impressive sea cliffs are being pounded by the wild ocean, producing some spectacular blowholes. Even here, the perilous terrain is occupied by all the usual suspects. Farther along the cliff's edge reveals a pair of Nazca boobies canoodling on the rocks, which in turn leads to a rookery of hundreds of them. Products of passion are deposited in shallow scuffs in the dirt, carefully watched over by an attentive parent-to-be. Perched on hot rocks beneath a blazing sun are the young, hideous little balls of fluff that only a mother could love. A terrible stench of rotten fish and fecal matter emits from the colony, enough to even make a lizard gag. From Espanola, the Nemo 2 sets a heading back to the southern shores of Santa Cruz Island. We awaken to a red sunrise in the mooring fields at Puerto Ayora. A few hardy souls are up and about to begin the day, and even some traffic moving about in town. Not everybody, however, is ready to start the day.
As for Wilms and myself, our Galapagos excursion is almost over, and a minivan will take us across the island back to Baltra, with a quick stop to see tortoises. The highlands of Santa Cruz are a stark contrast to what we've seen so far on the other islands, and those huge round boulders turn out to be alive. These giants occupied many of the islands of the Galapagos, but back in the 16th century, when the first ships arrived, they were plundered as a food resource. Along with introduced predators that ate the eggs, the survival of the tortoise came under dire threat. Surprisingly, 10 of the 15 different species are still in existence. Though the living conditions here are lush and prosperous for tortoises, fruitful egg laying is not, and every year the females must make the arduous trek down to the lowlands to fulfil their biological obligations.
You need to get in here, it's very comfortable.
In the next episode, we fly into Coca and take a trip down the Rio Napo and explore the dense rainforest of the Oriente. We rise high above the canopy to view spectacular bird life, canoe through narrow channels, and trek by foot along meandering forest trails. Join us on the next part of the adventure to unlock the secrets deep in the jungles of the Amazon basin.